Hey guys, um, are we filled yet? Is anybody still hungry? Yeah, because this talk is going to take I'm going to take some extra minutes, okay? So I hope we're all filled. All right, so my topic, very clear, progressive web apps for CakePHP developers. And yeah, I have a particular reason for using this as the background. You see, that's water. Water is progressive. So I decided to use it as the background. That was meant to be funny, so you guys should laugh, please. All right. Um, my name is Prosper Otemuyiwa. I am a software developer, and I work for a company called Otemuyiwa. How many of you know Otemuyiwa? Awesome, nice. It's based in Seattle. I love to do a lot of open source. I like to call myself a developer evangelist because across Africa, I go to different countries like Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, organize a lot of tech events, try to talk about open source and try to get people in the community to, to contribute and do more for the community. I'm also a jollof rice ambassador. Jollof rice is actually a very popular meal we have in Nigeria. So right now we have the meal in Nigeria and in Ghana, and there's been an argument about which jollof rice is better, whether the ones made by Nigerians or Ghanaians. So anytime, anywhere they ask me about this question, I like to pull up an argument. So I like to call myself an ambassador. I'm also a Google developer expert in web technologies, and I live in Lagos, Nigeria. Okay, so let's get started. What's a progressive web app? I'm sure we must have been hearing about progressive web apps for some time now. And a progressive web application is basically a website built using modern web technologies, but acts and feels like a mobile app. That's this basic definition of a progressive web app, all right? And now, progressive web apps are experiences that combine the best of the web and the best of apps. So when we talk about mobile apps and we talk about web apps, the web has made apps easily accessible to everybody, right? When you build an app and you share a URL, everybody can have access to that app, right? Even when you're using a low-featured phone, as long as you have a browser, you can put in the URL, right, and have access to the app. Now, if you launch an iOS app, and I don't have an iOS phone, I don't have access to the app, there are a lot of startups that come up, and the first app they launch is an iOS app, right? And as an Android user, you feel bad. You feel so bad that you don't have enough money to purchase an iPhone. Am I speaking to someone in the house? Yeah, I feel so bad. It took me a long time to purchase an iPhone. Why? Because I have no money, right? Or if you launch on Android, because in the States here, you have the larger percentage of people using iOS, using iPhones, right? So you don't have an iOS app yet. You're actually just reaching a particular audience, probably a particular audience in the States, and you're neglecting people in Nigeria, right? Or in places like Uganda or Tanzania. So the web, at the end of the day, still wins. And that's why I'm really excited to talk about progressive web apps. So we're going to be talking about how to make progressive web apps, why we should actually make progressive web apps, and a lot of other things. All right, so what defines the existence of a progressive web app? Now, what makes a web app progressive? So I'm sure some of you have been coding in CakePHP for how many years now? Maybe 8, 9, 10. Anybody coding for 15? All right, okay. So now, when you build an app with CakePHP, all right, let's go back to when we started building for the web. When you build a traditional web application, right? And now the traditional web application comes with the MVC structure, model, view, controllers. So you have like a lot of PHP code in your views. Then you discover that every time you need a user interaction, there is a serious round trip that's happening. The user clicks on the submit button, the page has to load. I'm sure the user will brew a cup of coffee and wait for the page to load before it gets back the results, right? Every time that happens, let me tell you, every time you do that, a puppy dies. Yes. Every time you allow your user to click on a submit button or on a click to action kind of button or link, and the page has to wait to load, a puppy dies. And because I'm trying to save puppies, I'm trying to make the world a better place, I want you guys to know more about progressive web apps. So by the time you turn your apps into progressive web apps, apart from the fact that you'll be saving a puppy, you'll be making more money. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because as developers, when a new tech is introduced to you, I mean, you can be very excited about that tech, but your manager might not be. Your CEO will ask you, how will this tech bring money into my pocket? Right? I'm sure some of you are stuck with some kind of practices in the company where you are right now. You want to use the latest technology. You want to use Angular, Angular 2. You want to use Servlet. You want to use Vue. You want to use Preact. But you're stuck with jQuery. jQuery, yes. You have your CakePHP, you have your views, and you've just been patching jQuery for years on the same view. And you want to change. Am I lying? You want to be modern. You want to use the modern web technologies, but because of the structure, the way the system has been set up, if you try to migrate right now, it's going to take a while. You're going to need the help of other developers. And right now, your company or probably your CEO or your CTO does not have time for that. Money must be made, right? But I'm going to convince your CTO right now. So you can take notes. Take notes. So you can go back home and tell your CTO, right, that tomorrow we need to turn this web app into a progressive web app. All right. So that was meant to be an emoji. I really don't know why the emoji is not showing. I love emojis. So this is meant to be an emoji. All right. Okay. Let's look at the features of a progressive web app. What makes a web app progressive? Let's start from the first. Progressive enhancements used throughout. 2 is discoverable. So when you're ranking with search engines, Google especially, I'm not going to talk about Bing, just Google. If you use Bing, awesome. But let's talk about Google. When you make your web app progressive, now, Google is the author of progressive web apps. Actually, the concept started from Google, right? And now, people are applying all sorts of techniques to make sure they rank high on Google. So imagine you make your web app progressive, and Google is the author of progressive web apps. You know how your apps will now rank higher automatically on the search engines. 3 is linkable. It's on the web. All you need to do is send the link to somebody. So somebody say, you're pitching for your app somewhere, or somebody just calls you up. Oh, by the way, I just met this VC, or I just met this investor. Can you just send me the link? If you have a mobile app, you tell the investor to download the app from App Store. Then the investor is probably using a 2G internet connection, and he tries to download the app. And it takes how many minutes to download? 5, 10, 15 minutes? On an average, how long does it take you to download an app from the App Store? I mean, I live in Lagos, Nigeria. I mean, we know the internet is not very good. You understand what I say? So to have 4G is a luxury. Like the day I see 4G, I just kneel down and thank God. Yeah. So the internet by default is slow, right? So when you give me a link and say, oh, by the way, just go to App Store and download the app, it takes me time. Then if I cannot afford a phone with large storage, that means I'm looking at the amount of storage. And now, for example, for developers that probably build their mobile apps with Ionic, then convert it, you know the size of the app. At the end of the day, you see app size of 65 MB. I don't have enough storage for that. So it's going to take time to download. It's going to take time enough storage on my phone. I don't want it. But if the app is progressive, all you need to do is send me a link. I view it on my phone. The time to interactive is fast. It loads even on 2G. When I'm offline, which is the most amazing thing, when my network goes, or my connection is flaky, or I go offline, my app still works. All right? The same, just like you're using your mobile app. When you go offline, you can still see the UI, you can still do some other things. Now imagine bringing that same experience to the web. Okay? So it looks and interacts like a native app. The UI is responsive, so it fits into any type of phone. So no matter how small the phone is or large the phone is, the UI is very responsive. Then it works offline. Then you can engage users through push notifications. I mean, you're on Instagram, right? You're on Instagram, you're on Snapchat, and you see the notification coming, right? You just swipe up, and you slide on the notification, and you can see that somebody liked your post, or somebody commented on your CakePHP talk. Oh, the talk was great. Oh, I didn't like this talk. You can easily see the notification, right? Now, imagine having the same experience for your mobile app on your web app. Imagine being able to send push notifications to your users for the web app you just developed. So if there is a new update, or there is a new article, probably you are working on a digital publishing platform. Maybe you're using WordPress, or you built it with CakePHP, and you have a lot of articles. You want the users to know once there is a new article, or you want the users to know once there's a new article by a particular author. All you need to do is just send a push notification. The user, because the user is using your progressive web app, is able to receive that push notification like a mobile app. Clicks on it, gets the latest update, and the user is using your service. Okay? Then a progressive web app is always served over HTTPS. If it's served over HTTP, you cannot call it a progressive web app. In short, when you're measuring the progressive web app, which we'll get to at the end of the talk, it cannot be progressive unless it is served over HTTPS. And you know what Google is working on right now? When you use Chrome and your site is not secure, if you are still not on HTTPS, you get the icon, the info icon by the left, trying to tell you that your site is not secure. So very soon, when Google is going to release Chrome 60, 61, I guess, once your app is not HTTPS, it's just not going to save the app. So Google is working on an update that once your app is not secure, your users will not be able to use your app, because everything should be secure by default. And I'm sure a lot of us know about Let's Encrypt, right? So, with Let's Encrypt, you can set up HTTPS in less than 5 minutes or 3 minutes, depending on whatever hosting option you're using. If you're using DigitalOcean, it's very simple. I still did it like 3 days ago. Less than a minute, you set up HTTPS free of charge. So, if your web app, the web app you developed is still using HTTP, please upgrade. All right. That's meant to be an emoji. I really don't know why this emoji is not showing. Okay. I'm sure you guys are asking, okay, what's this guy talking about? I have questions. And you know what I did? I already get the kind of questions you would like to ask me. So I'm going to show you those list of questions right now. All right. Number one, how does this bring cash to the table? Which is always the number one thing, right? When you're running a business, the tech is the enabler, right? But the primary core of the business is to make money, not to come out on Twitter and say, yeah, we are using the latest technology. We are badass like that. If there is no money, who cares? You discover that some of the best apps right now are not even using modern web technologies, right? If you go to your banks, the apps that they use in your banks are still running on COBOL. They're making money, right? Am I right? Yes. That's just a tip, though. If you transition from being a CakePHP developer to a COBOL developer now, you make a lot of money. That's a free of charge tip. Larry, forgive me, they're not converted, though. Number two, how do I code this stuff? How do I make it work? Number three, do I have to write it from scratch? Or are there tools out there that can just help me transform my web app from the traditional web app to a progressive web app, like maybe within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, instead of me having to rewrite the entire platform? Next, how do I convince my manager to make the switch? I am a die-hard PHP developer. Do I really have to learn JavaScript? We are going to dwell a little bit on this question. Then the last one, this is a PHP conference, man. Should you even be talking about this stuff? I don't know. Am I the only one talking about JavaScript in this conference? I think I looked at the list of talks. I think I'm the only one talking about JavaScript. Yeah, I think you guys should give me a round of applause for that, please. Give me a round of applause. Come on. So there was a quote I wanted to put in my slide, but I discovered that there were so many slides. If I added a new slide, man, and I'm sure you guys would complain, so I just left it out. And this quote was from Matt Mullenweg. That's the author of WordPress, the CEO of Automatic. When you're talking about PHP, everybody, the whole stuff comes down from WordPress. WordPress was one of the core PHP projects that came out. Then every other person, I don't know, maybe Larry got inspiration from WordPress. I don't know. Larry, where did you get your inspiration to write CakePHP? You saw the code base and like, man, I need to write something about MVC. And the first MVC came out, CakePHP, awesome. Right? So, but now, WordPress is becoming strictly API based. So they rewrote their entire front end in JavaScript. So when you go to WordPress.com now, the entire front end is written in JavaScript stack, and they just leverage the WordPress API. So the core of the API, the WordPress API still runs on PHP, but the WordPress site itself is JavaScript. So with that, you can easily turn that into a progressive web app, because progressive web apps capitalize on JavaScript, the fact that it runs in your browser. And we're going to talk about the core component of progressive web apps, which is service workers. And service workers work with JavaScript, right? So if WordPress.com can change the entire front end into JavaScript, then what are you waiting for? I mean, that's like the reference point, right? I mean, you can imagine the amount of users that visit WordPress.com every day. You can imagine the size of WordPress.com. You can imagine how many developers work on WordPress.com. Do you get what I'm saying? So, but they rewrote everything with, I can't remember, they put the statistics. I think you can go and check the number of developers that worked on it, the JavaScript stack they used, React and all of that. They rewrote everything, and now they just query their API. And the site loads very fast. Like right now, it's faster than how it was when everything was just entirely written in PHP. Okay? All right, let's move on. Okay, so do I really have to learn JavaScript? Yes, please, you have to learn JavaScript. I'm sure right now you're using jQuery. Or if you're not using jQuery, you're probably using Vue.js. You know, sprinkling some bit of Vue.js on the view, right? Am I talking to some people here? Because the way Vue.js is structured, Vue.js is very light, right? It's not like Angular that's very heavy. You know, you have to do the whole MVC stuff. With Vue.js, you can just include a line to the CDN, to the Vue.js CDN, then you can sprinkle some Vue.js on it for animations, for XHR requests and all of that. So you don't have to have a full page reload. You just make your request via Ajax and all of those cool stuffs, right? So if you're a PHP developer, please, if you've not learned JavaScript yet, please learn JavaScript. I'm a very big PHP advocate. Everybody knows me. You know, I talk about PHP a lot, but I really had to sit down to learn JavaScript because JavaScript is the new Java, right? It's everywhere. It works everywhere. You know, IoT is JavaScript. Even JavaScript runs in your cars. It's crazy. As much as you don't want to accept it, you just have to accept it because it's everywhere. It's like it's the most popular. I mean, how many of you checked the Stack Overflow survey that came out earlier this year? JavaScript is the most popular programming language. And right now, if you're looking for a job, if you say, oh, I'm a JavaScript developer or I'm a React developer, and you say I'm a PHP developer, a JavaScript developer will get a job 10 times faster than a PHP developer now. No hate to PHP, but that's just the way it is right now. The world is changing so fast. JavaScript is everywhere. And I know we are angry. I'm sure you're angry. I'm angry as I'm giving this talk right now. You know why? Because we know JavaScript is messed up. Yes. I mean, how many of you agree with me? Because like there are 25,000 ways of doing the same thing. Then somebody writes his code in JavaScript, you try to write the same thing in JavaScript, like, what the hell is this guy using? This guy is using prototypes. Why? Why can't you use this classical inheritance? Why can't you use this? You know, there are so many standards. Then there are some things that will just blow your mind. When you go to your Chrome DevTools and you open the place where you can put your script and run it, and you just do some not these things, give you some very funny answers. And like, why? Why is this in JavaScript? Why is there so many gotchas? PHP is clear. You know this works. You know when you inherit it, when you inherit a class or you extend a trait, you know how everything works. Nothing surprises you. But in JavaScript, till tomorrow, it surprises you. So it can be very hard. But if you take the time to sit down and learn it, I mean, your app and your services will be better for it. So let's move on. All right. Yeah, so this is Assad. And I'm sure, how many of you don't know Assad here? Oh my God. Wow. How many of you know DJ Khaled? No, but is this a joke? You guys are kidding me, right? You guys are playing with me. You guys don't know DJ Khaled, or am I not pronouncing it well? Yeah, you know DJ Khaled, right? Come on. We're the best, man. Right? Yeah, that's his son, you know? And his son is currently the executive producer of his latest album. Or the album that will come out his album is coming out in like 3 months' time from now. Grateful. And his son is the executive producer. This guy is just 7 months old. At the time he took this picture, I grabbed this picture from his Instagram page. I just hope it's not infringement of right or whatever. As at the time he took this picture, he was just 4 months old. And he was already the executive producer of the Grateful album. More money in his bank account than all of us combined. So if he can do it, I'm sure you can build progressive web apps. Let's move on. All right. So this is where I'm going to blow you guys off, because this is where you have to convince your manager. Because they will ask you, oh, yeah, this is a new tech. You guys have been talking about it a lot. Oh, there is this new JavaScript framework that came out. You guys have been talking about it a lot, but who are the guys that are actually using this in production? What's the use case? How many users are visiting the platform? How scalable is this technology? Can we use this for, I'm sure for a lot of systems that are built in CakePHP, or for some of the people that work with Larry, maybe the clients that work with him, what people want to know when they are actually trying to bet on a framework is how long is this framework going to be here for? How long is it maintainable? How many open source maintainers do we have on this project? Is there a particular leader, or does everybody, bring in their own contributions? Then you look at it. You have to look at those stuff, the roadmap. Some people ask for a roadmap. So they say, what's your roadmap? If the framework does not have a roadmap, you're like, nah, I'm scared. I'm sure some of them will message Mark directly and say, is there a roadmap for CakePHP? There's no roadmap. I'm not using CakePHP. Mark, there's a roadmap. Yeah. When did you guys start doing the roadmap, like making it public? From what version? 2009. Okay, I'm sure before 2009, when people, there's CakePHP is a very awesome framework, it's very popular, but there's no roadmap. So how are we sure this framework is not going to die in the next 2 years or 3 years, right? Because we know frameworks that come, and as developers, especially if you are like a 20-year-old developer right now, like you have programmed all your life for 20 years, you've seen a lot of frameworks come and go. So people try to look at, is this thing going to be long for? Because we don't know how long this application is going to be. So let's look at the first production use case that I'm going to talk about, Flipkart Lite. So Flipkart Lite is a very popular website in India for, you can order all sort of, it's a fashion site, so you can order different types of clothes and stuff. Now, these guys they actually created a new version, a new progressive web version called Flipkart Lite. Now, with this new version, it's app-like. Apart from the fact that it's app-like, you can add it to your home screen, so you can make it installable. So that means when you go to the browser, when you open it on the browser, on the right, you have these this ellipsis button that you can click. When it comes down, you see the add to home screen button. So you add it to your home screen like an app. The same way you launch an app is the same way you can launch Flipkart Lite. So now we are going to look at some of the statistics behind Flipkart Lite. What happened after they moved to progressive web apps? Let's see what happened. Was it the same experience? Was there an increase in user engagement? Did they make more money? All right. So these are the hard statistics. You can write it down or take a photo and show your boss. 70% increase in conversion rates, because that's what everybody asks. So how is this going to help our business? How are we going to get more users? Is our conversion rate going to increase? But this is what happened. After they deployed this progressive web app, they had a 70% increase in conversion rate. Then 3x less data usage. I'm going to speak again for Africans, because I'm an African. I live in Nigeria. So we don't have very good internet, or we're not, So if you are using data, we are always optimistic. Like, am I consuming so much data on this platform? This video, is it consuming so much data? If I load this page, is it going to consume a lot of data? So if you are loading a page and it's taking time, you don't visit that page anymore. Yeah, because it's going to consume your data. Imagine you open one website. Imagine I subscribe for 50 MB. I open one website, my 50 MB is gone. I will never open that browser again for the next 2 days, because I know my data has just been used. So, but with Flipkart Lite, 3x less data usage, then 40% higher re-engagement rate. So that means the users that were coming to the platform started coming to it more. You know why? Because they loved it. Have you ever used an app that the UI felt so good that you just kept using it because of the UI? You just wanted, it feels yummy, it feels eatable. Have you ever experienced something like that? Oh, okay, I think I love food so much, sorry. Next one is housing Go. This is one of the most popular housing platforms in India, where you can book a platform. You can look for a house, real estate, and buildings and locations and stuff. They also decided to take the same approach. And this is what happened. When they turned it to a progressive web app, this was what they got. 30% faster page load, initial page load. So that's always like the most important, because when your page loads the first time, your browser catches the page. So the next time the user comes to the page, it's faster by default. But the first time it loads, what happens? Is it faster? Is it very slow? When the user goes back to the website, does it load in less than 3 seconds? When you measure your app, the time to interaction for the user, how many seconds? If your time to interaction is getting to 10 seconds or 50 seconds, man, something's wrong with your app. Your app is loading too slow. So your initial load time should be less than 10 seconds. So the initial first paint time, then the time to interactive. That means for the user that is trying to use your app, as your app is loading, how fast can it start to interact with the buttons and the links on your app? All right, so 40% lower bounce rate, 10% longer average session. Let's move first, because I have so many things to talk about. This is Konga EZ. Konga is the largest e-commerce platform in Nigeria. Let's say Africa, right? Last year, they deployed a simpler version of their site. A simpler version of their site called Konga EZ, a PWA. What happened? 92% less data for initial load. So if you use Konga EZ right now, it's very fast. You consume less data. The images are loading very fast. You can, once you load it for the first time, it's almost instantly. Then also you can enable push notifications. So when there's a new product that you subscribe for, you can get access to that and say, oh, a new product has just come on Konga, and you can actually know instead of you going back to the website to check if that product is available. All right, let's move fast. Another one is AliExpress. I'm sure we all know AliExpress, very popular. They did the same thing, and see what they got, 104% increase in conversion rate. And you know why these conversion rates are increasing? Because right now, we have more people accessing your website on mobile than desktop. Is that true? Yeah. So most times when you want to buy something, the first you start your payment, you start searching for the product on your mobile phone, right? You save it to your wish list. Then maybe at some point in the night, if you have the time to open your laptop, you open it and finally purchase. But now people are even purchasing on their mobile sites, right? On your phone, you add it to your wish list, you purchase, bam, you're out of the platform. So you have a lot of people visiting your website, your web application on mobile. So if you can make it an interesting experience for them, then you're going to have a higher conversion rate and also re-engagement. So let's move on. The most recent one is Twitter Lite. How many of you are on Twitter? Yeah, I know I tweet a lot. Yeah, so Twitter just recently released their Twitter Lite. So they rewrote the initial version of their mobile website, mobile.twitter.com. So if you access twitter.com on your phone, it goes to mobile.twitter.com. They re-engineered that website, rewrote it in React, and made it a progressive web app. And see what happened. There was a substantial increase in the number of tweets sent per day. They had a 76% in the number of tweets sent. There was a 2.7% increase in the page views. And right now, it is interactive in less than 5 seconds on 3G. So you can imagine more people on Twitter platform now without having the app, the mobile app. I'm sure a lot of you access Twitter on the mobile app, right? You just have the mobile app. So, but instead of the mobile app, you just go to twitter.com. It redirects you to mobile.twitter.com. It comes as a progressive web app. You can add it to your home screen, and it works like a mobile app, but it's a web app. Forbes, we all know Forbes. Forbes too did the same thing. They released theirs in March, just recently. They turned Forbes into a progressive web apps, and they're already seeing performance gains. Truecaller, all of us know Truecaller. How many of you use Truecaller? I use Truecaller all the time. Yeah, Truecaller too did the same thing. Truecaller is the largest phone directory with over 3 billion numbers. They rewrote their website and made it a progressive web app. And they got this 100% increase in engagement. So it was easier for people to search for phone numbers. It was easier for people to add to Truecaller. Time to interactive moved from 2.1 seconds to 1.6 seconds. So when you load Truecaller on your phone on 3G, you can interact with Truecaller in 1.6 seconds. That's how fast it is right now. Then Lighthouse is a way of measuring it. They have a Lighthouse score of 91/100 right now. And that's crazy. Okay, let's move on. So how do you make progressive web apps? At the center of progressive web apps is what you call the service worker. So the service worker, I'll just use this as a simple explanation so you understand what a service worker is. A service worker is an air traffic controller. Think of your web app request as planes taking off. Service worker is the air traffic controller that routes the request. It can load from the network or even off the cache. So a service worker is what sits in between the request coming into your web app and your JavaScript and your script. So as the request is coming in, you can actually do whatever you want to do with that request before you serve it. So if the request is coming in and there is no internet, the user is offline, you can actually serve a custom page for the user and say, okay, now the user is offline, please activate a custom page. So by default, when you open your Chrome, if there is no internet, what happens? You start playing that game. How many of you play that game? I play the game all the time. So instead of having your users see that game all the time on Chrome, you can make it a progressive web app. So with a progressive web app, instead of that game showing up, you serve up a custom offline page. You can serve up a game. You can serve up some other pages that have something to do with your services. Oh, check out this, or check out our physical store. You can visit this. So the user doesn't have to see that game. The user can still interact with your service while it's offline. All right, so because of time, let's just move on. Now, so the service worker has different installation stages. I'm not going to bore you with the details of that so that I will not go technical. I have 1 more minute. Wow. All right, let's move fast. Okay, so this is the way you register the service worker. I'm going to share the slides so you can check that out. Okay, now, with the service worker, you can add offline support, which I just talked about, right? Now, when you add offline support, there is something else you do. When you add offline support, where is the data going to be stored for the offline supports? Okay, you have different types of data storage. You can use the IndexedDB. You can use the Cache API that comes with your browser. You can make use of PouchDB. So what happens when you make use of PouchDB is that it syncs the data to PouchDB. So when the user comes back online, it syncs that data from that data store back to your storage online. So even when the user is online, the user is still interacting with your app, but you're saving the data in the browser with PouchDB. Then pre-cache module. This is a node module that you can just easily use to cache all your assets. So you can make all your image. You can cache your images, your style sheets, your JavaScript files, all your assets. You can cache them. So once the user comes back online, it doesn't need to fetch those requests from the network. It just fetches it from your cache. All right, getting users engaged by adding to the home screen. I've been talking about that. So all you need to do to add to the home screen is you create this file, the manifest.json file. So when you create this file, you just link it in your HTML, right? You link it on all your pages. Link ref is equal to manifest, href is equal to this JSON file. When you do this, this is what it will allow the user to be able to do, right? Sorry. Okay, this is an option. So you can add a display to be browser or standalone. When you add the display to be browser, when the user launches your app from the home screen, it's still going to see the URL of the link. But if you make it standalone, the URL will disappear. So it just works like an app. So the user thinks it's actually operating a mobile app. It works like a mobile app. The URL has disappeared, nothing. Can you see how great that is? So your web app is working almost like a mobile app, right? Okay, so this is the diagram. So when you go to the URL of a progressive web app and you click on that button there, you see add to home screen, then you can add it to home screen. So you can always launch from here instead of having to go to the URL every time. So you just go back to your app, launch it from there. That's what makes your progressive web app. Now, push notifications. You will re-engage your users. I've talked about that. You check with your service worker, does this browser support push notification? If it supports, go ahead and enable it. So I'm sure you guys must have seen this on your browser. You go to a news website or something, it brings out this notification. Should I send you notifications? If you allow it, then you start getting okay, this is what happens in your browser. I was just testing this. Then you start seeing stuff like this. It just comes in, right? Look at Facebook. If you are not on Facebook and somebody sends you a chat request or a message, you get it like that. So you just get your push notifications all the time. Then on mobile, this is how it will look on mobile. The same way your push notification will look like on your mobile app. So when you use a mobile app, this is how you get your notifications, right from the top. So when you use a progressive web app, with your progressive web app, you can also get the same notifications on the top. And now, because Google is the author of, behind progressive web apps, the major author, they are integrating progressive web apps, more closely with Android. So when you even install your progressive web app, when you add it to the home screen, when you go to your app settings, your app drawer on Android, where you can see your list of apps, your web app appears as an app there on your Android. So you get to see the amount of MB like a normal app. So you can remove it from there. You can see the type of the data it consumes and all of that. All right, improving performance. This is very, very important. And I'm saying it because Twitter did something like this and they saw an improvement in load time. Look at this. I'm not going to talk much about Webpack 2. You can Google about it, but I'm going to talk about the second link. Use link rel preload to improve initial load time. So what this preload does is preload prefetches the script or the resource that you link it to. It prefetches it before the user clicks on the link. So that when the user, when it loads your app for the first time, it actually loads faster. So when the user clicks on the link, when the user clicks on a new link, instead of it having to load the page, it has already loaded it. So the user just gets to the page directly. Then this Twitter used this, link rel is equal to DNS prefetch. And what does it do? It attempts, for example, when you start scaling your web app, you start having different servers. You have a server for images, you have a server that loads these other scripts, you have this server, so you have like 3 or 4 servers, and you're loading everything on your web page. When you use link rel is equal to DNS prefetch, what it does is it attempts to resolve the domain names before the users even click on the link. So when the user clicks on the link, it loads instantly. It's not waiting for any network request. So take note. Then another technique that people use is server-side rendering, but this doesn't work in all cases, and it can be really complex. But I'm not going to talk about that. So how do you measure your progressive web apps? How do you measure to know that your app is progressive or is progressive enough? There are 2 main tools. Web page test. Some of you might be aware of web page test already, which is very popular. Then second one is Lighthouse. Lighthouse is a Node.js module strictly for measuring your progressive web apps. So you can add it as a Chrome extension, which is the link I put there, or you can install it as a node module. npm install Lighthouse, and you already have it. So it checks all of these. Then it gives you this kind of report. So I give you an example. This airhonor.com, you can check it out. It's a progressive web app. It's a very simple progressive web app. So if you install the Lighthouse module and you check it out, it's going to give you a report like this. 100% progressive web app, performance 97, accessibility, best practices. It's going to check if it has HTTPS enabled. It's going to check your time, the time duration for first time to paint, and also time to interactive. Look at it. So look at time to interactive, 1.5 seconds. So the time to interactive is happening, look at 1,440 milliseconds. So time to interactive is less than 1.5 seconds. So you can actually interact with the app in less than 1.5 seconds, which is crazy. So if your app, if you are building a service in your company right now, if your app can actually load in less than this time, do you know how many more users you'll be able to accrue? Do you know how many more users you'll be able to engage? Do you know how your conversion rates will increase greatly within a month or 2? It will be crazy. All right. So these are the metrics. You can keep checking it out with Lighthouse every time. That's web page test. You can install web page test too as a module, npm module, and just require it in your page and do all the reporting. I'll just go through this. Many of you might be writing vanilla JS, but who has time to write vanilla JS? I'm sure you use frameworks: Vue.js, Polymer, React, Preact, Servlet. There are so many of them, right? Now, out of the box, this is the cool stuff. For you guys already using Vue.js, out of the box, you can create a progressive web app out of the box. So with this command, they just added it to their template recently. So when you do Vue init PWA, the app that it creates for you is a progressive web app out of the box. So with service worker, with offline support, with a Lighthouse measurement of 100 over 100, and with SW pre-cache, all of that already installed for you. So by the time you serve all your assets, it caches all of them by default and all of that. So it's a PWA out of the box for you with Vue. Then with Preact, how many of you use or know about Preact? Preact is the faster version of React, very small, very fast. So with Preact, with the Preact CLI, you can actually build a progressive web app out of the box. So with Preact CLI, once you run the command and it creates your app, it's a PWA out of the box instantly. React, the author of React, Dan Abramov, just recently, and I don't know how many of you use this tool, I use it a lot, create React app. So if you want to provision a new React app, this is the tool you use. Just recently, they added their service workers and all of that to it. So right now, if you create it with this app, it creates a PWA for you out of the box. So you don't even have to sweat it. Polymer, same thing. Then, finally, I know Megan has been waiting for me to finish this talk. Finally, you might be asking, okay, you've talked about progressive web apps, how to make progressive web apps, but are there sample resources that we can look at, sample code that we can look at to see how we can actually leverage something as the backend, as an API, and use JavaScript on the front end? So I'm just going to give you this. During the Google I.O. just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was at Google I.O. and Andy Osmani talked about this project that was recently launched. So you can take note of this, hmpwa.com. So I don't know how many of you knew about to do MVC? Okay. So HNPWA is Hacker News Readers as Progressive Web Apps. How many of you read Hacker News? I expect everybody to read Hacker News. We read Hacker News every day, right? So Hacker News has an API that you can use to create your own Hacker News version, right? It has an API, so you can just use your own JavaScript front end to consume the API and create your web app, right? So what they did here is they use all the major JavaScript front end frameworks to consume the Hacker News API. So imagine the Hacker News API 2 was written in CakePHP. So for your app, all your endpoints are in CakePHP, and you're looking for how to make a progressive web app, just come to this site, hmpaw.com. It has React Hacker News app, Vue.js Hacker News app, Angular 2 Hacker News app, Servlet Hacker News app, Preact Hacker News app, and these are written by open source contributors, and it has gone through different iterations, nice lighthouse ratings, PWA out of the box, so you can study the code and just use it to transform your own web app into a progressive web app ASAP. So replace the Hacker News API with your own CakePHP API endpoints, and you're good to go, and you have a functional progressive web app sharply. hmpwa.com is a progressive app itself, just so you know. It's a progressive web app, so it can load offline too. Okay, so if you're looking for resources to learn about progressive web apps, I wrote a 3-part series on Otemuyiwa's blog, and those are the links here. How to make it offline first. 2, instant loading. 3, how to enable push notification. I wrote a comprehensive 3-part series, so you can start from there. Then the last link is a training by Google itself, just for progressive web apps. So a lot of everything I just talked about is there, with practical example of how building a web app alongside. So if you need to learn about progressive web apps, this is all you need, and you can get started. So thank you very much. I think Megan will be happy now that I've concluded. All right. So any questions? I think I have time for questions, or have I used that up to? All right, any questions? I'm actually expecting a lot of questions because this is JavaScript. We all know PHP, come on.
Oh.
You sent me a tweet also. All right.
So I wanted to ask about application state, like, the regular website, you have sessions and, history back and forward and all that. Does that change at all with progressive web apps? Is that still pretty standard?
All right, so if you're talking about sessions, I will assume you're talking about like authentication and stuff.
Yeah.
Knowing the user. So for something like this, you're just going to use JWT, JSON Web Tokens. And I work for a company that uses JWT all day, or zero. So I can tell you, I can give another presentation right now on JWT, but Megan will not allow me. So you can use JWT for your sessions. So on the back end, it's it sends back a JWT that has an expiry date. Your JavaScript consumes that JWT, stores it in the browser. Then, the JWT can expire, and every time it checks, is it expired? Is it signed properly? And you can use that to authenticate the user and use that throughout your sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Come on, guys, I need questions. Ask me anything. All right, just ask.
I'm just curious to know for the notifications, does your browser need to be open?
Nope.
So the browser can be closed?
Yes.
And that would be based off the browser itself?
Yes. So because it runs in the background, so you have an API called background fetch and background sync. So the good thing about the background sync API is that if the browser is not open, or say the user is trying to perform a resource, and the network goes off, it can just wait or save it somewhere, save it in the cache. Then when the user comes back online with the background sync, it enables the user to do whatever he has been doing. But for push notifications, even when the browser is closed, the user can still get the notification because you have already installed the service worker. The service worker is what checks if the push manager API is available, right? And if it's available, you already registers that the push manager is available. So even when you close the browser, you still get it. You still get the push notifications coming in.
Okay, that would be the same for Chrome or Safari.
Yeah, to be for Chrome, but I don't know. I don't trust Safari because Apple has been a little bit slow, as in comparison with Google and Microsoft in implementing the whole spec for progressive web apps. So I would trust Chrome more. I would trust Microsoft Edge more. I would trust Firefox more than I would trust Safari. Just saying. I'm sure this talk is recorded. So just saying.
And
Yeah.
then, the last question I had to do with how do you educate your end users that your site is now a progressive app and then they should click on all these things so that they can install it to the desktop?
So okay. So maybe do you need any special type of education? Okay, maybe for the first time you create the progressive web app, you need to let the user know that okay, now our website is going to function like a mobile app. Maybe for the first time, let them know that you can add it. I mean, this can be like update instructions. So you can. How many of you see the updates for Medium? How fun it is when you see. Okay, you should check the updates for Medium app. You see the developers are always funny with the updates. So if you are trying to teach your users, maybe for the first time that the app goes progressive, let the user know that, oh, by the ways, this is the way it has been working before, but these are new ways that you can make it work and it'll be faster. And I'm sure if the user gets it once, that's all.
Okay. No, the reason why I asked the question is because I visited some of the sites that you mentioned that
Okay.
were progressive, and as an end user, I didn't see anything that told me, this is a progressive app. I should click here
Oh, okay.
and install it to the desktop for. So that I was just curious to know if that was like within the community of progressive app developers. Is that something that it's on the responsibility of the browser, educating the end user, or the developer?
So it's the responsibility of the developer. So for example, Forbes, what Forbes did now is Forbes actually did an ad. There's a video, there's a demo video that they did. So they put it on their site. So for new users that come to, if you go to Forbes, you should see that video, you should see the article, that their website is now a progressive web app. And they did a full video on the progressive web app experience. So anybody that goes to Forbes and reads that article, you will know that now we have a progressive web app and you'll be able to use it. So I guess you just have to do that for the initial time. But once you have done it once, then that's all. All right. Larry is chasing me already. Thank you very much for listening to my talk. I hope it helps. Thank you.